We are making a Neapolitan classic that I grew up with. We're making pasta fagioli with seafood. If you have been a long-time watcher here in Laura in the Kitchen, and you remember about 10 years ago, I go to Italy every year. My family lives in Italy. My nonna lives in Italy, and she shared her recipe with you for pasta fagioli with mussels. This is that, but with a little more seafood added to it, and it is one of the most sensational things on the planet Earth. And if you did not grow up eating it, I already know I'm going to get the people in the comments, this is not real Italian. It's a very traditional old Neapolitan recipe that I love. It's one of my mother's favorite things in the world, and I was talking to her the other day, and we were just like reminiscing about different things, different recipes, and she was talking about this one, and I was like, oh, I haven't made it with anything more than just mussels in a really long time, because that's how my nonna makes it, and she likes it with more seafood. And I'm going to show it to you. It's very simple. It's so delicious. I'm starting with dried cannellini beans that I have rinsed really well. I did not soak these. I don't find a reason to soak them, but they do need to cook for a while. So make sure you rinse them really well. You pick through them. I'm going to add them to my Dutch oven that's been filled with water. My water is already nice and hot, up to a little simmer. And now here's the thing, because I am starting this with dry beans take about 3 hours to cook. I don't want to add my aromatics now, because if I cook the beans with the aromatics for the full 3 hours, then chances are that the aromatics are going to lose some of their, I would say some of their flavor. It just go a little more like one note. So what I'm like to do is I'm going to cook these beans for about an hour and a half on their own on a very gentle simmer till they're about halfway cooked through, and then we'll add our aromatics, and then we'll make our seafood. It sounds really complicated, but it's not. And if you are from Naples, you grew up in Naples, you have any family members from Naples, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below if this recipe brings back any memories, or maybe how your family made it. But I'm gonna let this go, and when they're halfway cooked through, we'll move on to the next step. All right, my beans are about halfway cooked through. My timer just went off. Really lovely. It smells already like home in here. And now we're gonna add some aromatics to this. Now you're gonna have to just sort of trust the process, because it's gonna kind of look like that's it. But trust me, it's all the right things. You're gonna start off with a clove of garlic. Now I did a half a pound of beans, so obviously if you're doing a full pound, peel the thing out. If you're doing a full pound, you're gonna wanna double it. I'm doing 2 stalks of celery. I'm just gonna very finely give this a nice little chop like that. Just chop and dice. There we go. And then you need some kind of tomato product. It can be a diced tomato, a fresh diced tomato. It can be a couple of spoonfuls of passata. It can be tomato puree. It can be any tomato product with the exception of ketchup, which I know I don't even have to tell you, but I'm gonna. It can be any tomato product. Sometimes I'll even do this with like a couple tablespoons of like marinara sauce from the fridge. It works fantastic. My mom is very partial to just a couple of little tomatoes, like she means like cherry tomatoes, which you could do. I think I'm gonna do, let's see how much half a tomato is, because this is not, our pasta fagioli is not super red. It's more like a pink, it's got more of a pink hue. I'm gonna actually go ahead and use 3/4 of this tomato. And then you just need a couple of more things. You need a couple of leaves of basil, and you're gonna need a really good drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. No seafood just yet, because now this needs to simmer for another hour or so, or until the beans are really nice and tender. Now that all together smells like home. It smells like my childhood. It smells like cozy, just happy vibes. I don't know how to really describe it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let that cook. I'm gonna partially cover it like that and just let that go. My beans are soft and tender and fantastic. I took the clove of garlic out. Now this is the point where you wanna add your pasta and also add your salt. You're gonna wanna season it quite heavily, because beans are super bland, and everything will be really bland if you don't season accordingly. Pasta shapes, I'm using what we call pasta miscata, which would be pasta mista, which is mixed pastas. The important thing is that they're all require the same amount of cooking time. Now you can actually buy pasta already mixed like this, but really it's insane to me because this idea came from basically gathering all the leftover bits and pieces that are broken at the bottom of your pasta box, and then you put them all in a container, and it's the best pasta shape for pasta fagioli, pasta patate, pasta lenticchie, your lentil soup, your potato soup, your bean soup. It's like the perfect shape for this, and it's gonna look really thick, but that's kind of the whole point. This needs to be really creamy and delicious. This does not need to be watery. Let that cook. In the meantime, we're gonna work on the seafood, which is like one of the most important parts of this whole thing. Now, like I said, in that original video, my nonna shared with you how to make it with just mussels. And basically you just cook your mussels separately, you steam them, you take the meat out, and then you save a little bit of the liquid to add to your soup. What my mother loves and what I also love is to add mixed seafood. So it would be like a little cuttlefish or calamari, some clams. These are actually frozen. I buy them in my regular grocery store in little packs of 10 ounces a piece. And I love this mix. It's actually gonna say seafood mix for rice or spaghetti, whatever you want to call it. And I love this mix. Like I said, it's got a little calamari, little tiny baby pieces of shrimp around there, and clams and mussels, and it blends with the fresh mussels really nicely. Fresh mussels, of course, you can steam them separately if you want, but I think everything in the same skillet is king because then it just develops a lot of really great flavor. I've got a skillet here. To it, I'm gonna add some garlic. I'm gonna add 2 very small cloves. I'm gonna crush them and add them in, but I'm not gonna chop them because I'm gonna retrieve them when I'm done with it. I want a little kick of heat with a little hot pepper flake, not much. And then I need a little tomato product. Remember the tomato that we diced earlier? And I had a little bit of leftover. I'm gonna go ahead and use some of that. You don't want too much. I mean, it really does depend, I guess, on how much you're making, but you do want, you know, like maybe 1 Roma tomato, 1 vine ripe tomato. That looks good enough. And that's gonna make a really nice little flavorful sauce situation. I'm also gonna take a little bit of parsley. I need some for now, some for later. And I'm just gonna give it a nice little mix. And the parsley and the tomatoes can just mix together because I'm actually gonna add them at the same time. Make sure your seafood is nicely clean and wait for that garlic to sizzle. Garlic is fragrant. Add your parsley. And that already smells so good. Proper, you know, home cooking. It's gonna be really difficult to accurately write the recipe for you because a lot of this just comes down to look and feel, how much of your water has reduced while the beans were cooking. You're gonna have to really gauge it by eye, but I'll definitely have sort of a, you know, a ballpark idea for you in the written recipe. Because truth of the matter is, as I'm sure you know, anytime you make any kind of recipe like this, everything varies every time you make it. Sometimes you need more water, sometimes you need less. Sometimes you need more pasta, sometimes you need less. Like I said, it varies every time. This looks good. Add your seafood. And pretty much almost immediately, now this would be great over pasta, let's be for real. But even more delicious, let's just say equally as delicious in this. I'm just gonna cook this a couple minutes, not much time at all. Once your mussels have opened, you're done. Remove it from the heat. The seafood will continue cooking in there for a couple of minutes and it's gonna be perfection. You're gonna get liquidy bits in there, all that seafood, delicious flavor, that, I'm gonna call it water, that comes out of the mussels. It's gonna lend such beautiful flavor to your soup. So let that open up for just a couple of minutes and then I'll show you the next step. Seafood is ready. I'm taking some of the mussels. I'm actually gonna take all the mussels out. I'm gonna save some in the shell. Ooh, just for aesthetic purposes on the top. You know, I think Nonna would like that. She's an aesthetic queen, you know? And then most of them, I'm obviously gonna take the meat out of the shell because I wanna add it to my soup. And I wanna add it in the last just couple of minutes of cooking because I want everything to cook together and all the flavors to marry and all the flavors to get to know each other. And my soup is looking really good, nice and thick, just how I like it. I'm just gonna take these out. Remember, any mussel that has not opened throughout the cooking process, toss. Now look how thick my soup is. This is what pasta fagioli should be like. It is not a soup, it's also not a stew, it's somewhere in between, okay? Now look at all the juice that you have in here. You got your mussels, you got your juice, you have a little bit of liquid, so it's gonna loosen up, but then it's all gonna finish cooking together. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Let that cook until the pasta's pretty much fully cooked through. I'm actually gonna move the pot closer to me because I have short T-Rex arms and I can't reach that easily. I'm gonna turn the burner on. And like I said, just let everything cook together like the last, I would say, maybe 2 minutes. Isn't that gorgeous? That's beautiful. Get a little bit of basil, get a little bit of parsley on the side, and get ready to plate. Look how gorgeous. The perfect consistency. A little bit of parsley just to brighten it up a little bit. I also like to go in with just a little bit of basil just at the very end. It's perfection. And as it sits, it will thicken, but really this is just the perfect texture. Look at here. Look at this. That gorgeous. You cannot imagine how good that is. Oh, it's making my mouth water. Then, very important with pasta patate, lentils, and beans. Very important. Freshly ground black pepper on top. Get some of your mussels in there. And then just one final drizzle of extra virgin olive oil on top. And that is my childhood. That is what I think, I find it hilarious that this kind of food would be known as cucina povera, or like poor man's kitchen, because beans are really affordable. If you I grew up on the water, on the Mediterranean. My grandfather was a fisherman. All the men on my father's side of the family were fishermen. And so seafood to them was super affordable. They would catch and they would go and they would cook. And so the fact that this would be considered poor man's food, I find pretty outrageous, but look at that. Because I paid top dollar for this. This is exactly what I like. Hot though. Oh my gosh. The seafood is perfect, not too strong, not fishy, just taste of the Mediterranean. Yeah, it's comforting, it's everything. LauraInTheKitchen.com will have the full right recipe for you. Hope you enjoyed spending time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. You can put the parsley right on top. Huh? She wants you to see the mussels. Or you can put parsley on your plate. It's really optional. Allora, assaggi prima tu o io?
No, vai tu, come fai a assaggiarne?
She's got the privilege of eating this delicious food every day. I want a couple mussels. I, on the other hand, don't. Mogosha.
Sushi.
And it's really hot in here. El cuchillo me va a ver, no.
It's sushi.
It's so hot, my eyes are watering. But it doesn't stop me from going back for more. We hope you enjoyed spending time with us. We've got a few more to film. I hope that you are enjoying these recipes as much as we're enjoying bringing them to you. Salud! La prossima! Assaggi buono.